Alright, so I am going to show you guys how I make a kinogram. This is going to be a comparison kinogram. A comparison meaning I'm going to compare a kinogram that I make for my athlete of my athlete's performance to that of an elite performer. Now, one thing that's super important that I'm already seeing, this athlete you can see on the screen is running to the right of the screen. And this video that I'm going to use, she is technically running to the left. So I'm going to edit that, and I am going to flip it. There we go. So now that it is flipped, when I take my screenshots, it'll be going in the same direction that my athlete's going, and it'll all make sense once I start making it. So these are the frames that I used, and sometimes when you get this blurry film, it's a little hard to see, but that's okay. Usually athletes can kind of get it. If you got to draw lines, I've done that in the past. But I'm going to do touchdown of the third to last. This would be full support of the third to last step. That would be toe off of the third to last step. Then I'm going to go touchdown or something close of the penultimate step. I'm going to try, I don't know, I think I'm going to try to get knees together after the penultimate step when the knees are right next to each other. We'll call that close. The next position, it's somewhere between the frames here, but it's when the knee is directly underneath the hip. You can see there it's slightly in front, there it's slightly behind. I'm going to choose this one. I call this maximum shin drop. In this case, it's also going to be toe off because the frame kind of cuts off. Sometimes you get lucky with just finding better film than this older film, but I just like this video, so I'm going to call that a late toe off. It's not going to totally line up with his, but that's okay. So the next one after penultimate toe off is going to be touchdown on the takeoff. Really can't see that, but that's full support of the takeoff. And that would probably be toe off. Okay, so at this point, I'll probably fast forward the video here. But all you got to do is you edit, you crop it, and you go to square. And what I like to do is I like to put the athlete's hips in the very middle box there. And you got to try to keep it the same. Make sure that they're about the same size. So I'm going to say hips in the little box, and knee is going to be on that line there. I don't know if you saw that. Although when they're in motion, it's kind of hard. There we go. Hips in the very middle. That looks pretty good. And as you do this more, you get better at it. So I'm going to keep going here. There's that. And you don't have to do this many frames that I did for long jump. Excuse me. For long jump, I like to kind of experiment with different positions. Like if I'm emphasizing a position with an athlete that they're really struggling with, and I know of an athlete that does a good job, professional or not, it could be just somebody else on the team. I will often have that position show up in the kinogram, and probably the positions before that are the cause of and after that are the result of. So now we've got all of our frames here, and you can see the athletes' frames that I'm going to use up there. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. What am I missing here? Sometimes you got to compare and contrast where, did I do full support on the penultimate? Oh, I didn't. I didn't do full support on the penultimate. We'll do that. So I have on my athlete's film him in full support on the penultimate. And that's, we don't have that in this film. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to put pick now. And I'm going to add photos. And you can only add 16. So if I were to just make my athlete's Kinogram, it shows up and it's something like this. And if I think I've got 10 photos here. I like to put them in more of something that resembles a rectangle or a square. Since I believe I have 10 photos, I'm going to do a rectangle. You can just kind of move. Oh, I have 11. That's okay. You can just kind of move them around. Keep them organized in order, hopefully. This one goes there. That was a mistake I made earlier. Here we go. It lines them up nice for you too, which makes it super nice. Okay. And that'll do the job just fine. You can save this and zoom in and see picture by picture what the Kinogram looks like. Sometimes if I want to mess with something that looks a little bit better on a phone, since I usually work with younger athletes, I'm probably going to do something a little bit more horizontal, like this, and have those last two at the end there. That looks a little bit better on a phone screen. But so now what I'll do is I'll save that. I'm going to remove all these and I'm going to add them back again. I'm going to compare. I'm going to do penultimate touchdown, knees together, maximum shin and knee drop, toe off, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then touchdown, mid support, toe off. And I'm going to do the same thing on the film down here. So I'll do touchdown, knees together, maximum knee drop, toe off, touchdown, mid support, toe off. So for 14 is what it's going to make. So you could just put all of these pictures underneath. And when you've got very few pictures, that does work great. Because you can just look, you can compare one above the other and just look at it and say, here's the position you're in, here's the position I want you to be in, and it's very easy to see. There's not much gray area there. So you can kind of see. There's the similar positions, touchdown, touchdown. You can see some differences in the recovery height of the takeoff leg. You can see that again there. The athlete at the top, his recovery height is coming through very high, whereas Jackie Joyner Kersey at the bottom, her recovery is very low. The knee drop looks fairly similar to me. The postures look fairly similar, but because of his high recovery on the takeoff leg, his takeoff leg is way up high, and her foot is a little lower. He looks like he's reaching like crazy here at toe off. I know that the frame on hers is a little different, but we see some differences there. Touchdown, we see some similarities, right? A lot of similarities here on that touchdown. Mid stance, again, some similarities. It's hard to see Jackie on the bottom there, but and then takeoff, we see some differences. She's keeping that swing leg foot behind her knee, whereas this athlete's casting it out. But you can do it that way. I also like to oh, do it this way, where again it's a little bit more horizontal, you know. And we've got an odd number of pictures here um, that make it a little more difficult. But either way, this is kind of how I do it. So I could save that and I could send it along to the athletes and tell them specifically, like, hey, this is what I'm looking at. Sometimes I number them and I say, look at picture 2, 3, 4, whatever. Look at the similarities, look at the differences. I often ask them to do it on their own and tell me what similarities and differences they see. I feel like it deepens learning at the practice a little bit. But anyways, that's how I make a kinogram. You can do it for sprinting, you can do it for throwing, you can do it for really any event. Um, but I really like to do it for jumping, specifically in the takeoff, and I feel like it's helped my athletes and my coaching a lot.